What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another one of my tutorials. So we're we're quite a few videos into this so far, and we created a Active Directory domain controller on our virtual environment. We have a host machine with Hyper-V installed, and we created a virtual machine on that physical host machine called it DC1. Went through and allocated some additional resources like RAM, attached a virtual hard disk, and network adapter. And we went through and installed Active Directory Domain Services, DNS, and I don't think we've done DHCP yet. But what we're trying to do right now is populate our Active Directory user accounts with dummy data user accounts. And I'm using a script for that purpose. We're using Contoso.com as our primary domain controller. That's our forest. That's our DNS name. And creating user accounts is relatively simple and straightforward. But I want to create a bunch of user accounts all at once, and I want to map them out in users and computers groups. So it's been a little tricky, but I think I finally figured out why we're having trouble executing this. This is the script that we're creating, and we're trying to populate Active Directory users and computers management console. So let's go to users and computers. So we're trying to populate this. All right. I don't want to use this OU for computers or to store user accounts. No, I'd rather, so we have demo accounts, users. This is where I wanted them to store. All right, so I want to get rid of this, so I'm going to have to run it again. So now, yeah, very good. Yeah, so demo accounts have been removed. Very good. That's the error. Demo accounts OU has been removed. All right, so now when I execute this script, we shouldn't see any errors. There we go. Beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. So now it's going through and it's creating user accounts. So we're importing data from a spreadsheet or CSV file, comma separated values file. Very common for any task. You're pulling data from a spreadsheet, you're parsing that data and importing that directly into your destination. In this case, it's going to be Active Directory. So we should have a OU called demo accounts, and there it is. Very good. I don't like to do this while the script is still running, but it's okay. So we should have groups. Yes. Users, and now we're okay. So very good. We're seeing users. Now we have US as the OU. It's a sub OU within the users OU. And there you go. We're seeing all of them. And here's some of the users. And number of contracts. Okay. Very good. So we have. Very good. So while I'm waiting for that to install, I'm going to go ahead and add DHCP. Liar, liar, pants on fire. There is too a static IP address on this computer. So this has been pretty fun so far. It's been successful. We have a primary domain controller, and name is going to be contoso.ou. So I'm going to do a triangle that will replicate the forest. It's going to be contoso.com. That is DC1. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and configure DHCP, but that's going to be another time. ADFS is fun. That's going to be pretty cool. That's probably going to be the funnest part of this entire exercise. And what I'm also going to do now is actually install Active Directory Certificate Services or Certificate Authority. So I'm going to add Windows feature add or install, it doesn't really matter. Let's say AD. So we want to give name. And that gives us the option to install or configure a certificates for security and identity management for computers and users. Device management. So the way Active Directory works is I have user accounts for like the ones I just created right now. And then we have computers, so we can configure certificates for these users and computers, whether they're on the network or outside the network. It's something that does require some advanced, it can, whenever you're dealing with certificates, you have to be careful. That's why it's good to have certificates separated out and applied to certain OUs, instead of applying them to all OUs or the root OU, because if they're not configured properly, that could very well cause issues. We're mainly going to be using the certificates for ADFS, and what certificates do essentially is apply SSL encryption to our environment. So that's going to come in handy for deploying ADFS and integrating that component with our Office 365 tenant, because we'll have to go in there and we'll have to create certificate templates based on our web server template, and then issue that certificate template, and we're going to have to set up some group policies and apply those, and then we will install the ADFS feature, and then we'll go through and configure that with the certificates that we created. So there's a lot involved. And then when you actually go in and configure ADFS upon installation, that can also be tricky. But we want to get that going with our Azure AD tenant when we set up Office 365. We're going to set up a trial version. I always forget this. Alright, so I was wrong. So let's see, I type an enterprise, I think. It's not a standalone system. Alright, cool. So now we should see all the OUs, all the states. Yep, there they are. So we did all that with one script, which is pretty cool, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And what we want to do, though, is we want to eventually add the, no, it's already in this, so that's cool. Now we want to go through and configure this so it forces them to change the password upon login. We can do that with certificates and group policy. Let me see, they're already members of various security groups, so when they go to access certain drives on the network or save the desktop, only certain members of that group will be allowed to access that, which is what security groups are good for, because it controls access, and we can create read-only and modify access. So we really kind of accomplished a lot for this lab. So that's pretty cool. What I'm gonna do, so we already configured certificates, but we want to configure DHCP. We'll finish that up here later on, but you see how we have the essential services for Active Directory domain services for our domain. We have ADDS, we have DHCP, and DNS. That's all we need. Yes, we'll be adding more to it, obviously, but for now, what I want to do, though, is I do want to create a Windows 10 machine on this environment because I do have the resources available for it. So we're going to go new, virtual machine, next. We're going to name it Windows 10 VM. And then we're going to pick the separate partition for this. Select second generation. Memory should suffice. Ethernet. And now we should be able to install our operating system from that same location. Yep, Windows 10. Next. Finish. And I'm going to let start this and let it run overnight. I don't know if I showed you this last time, but this time guess we can. I was gonna start with PowerShell, but that's one thing I can't do right now, so that's okay. Always check the settings first. Yep. Very cool. Very good. Should be able to run up to at least 3 or 4 virtual machines at once on this computer. It's very similar to the last lab we set up. There's it's a old computer that I found in storage. No, I'm sorry. This I bought last year. It is it's a Dell, dude. I'm getting a Dell. Dude, I have a Dell. I did upgrade the hardware in this recently. I replaced the hard drive with a solid state SSD, 450 gig hard drive. RAM, so upgraded memory to 16 gigs of RAM. The processor is only an i3, single core i3, clocking in at 3.30 gigahertz. That's not too bad. So I mean, preferably I'd rather go i5 or above, but for this, it's fine. It's Intel based, obviously. I've also attached an additional hard drive to this computer, to this server. That's where we're storing all of our virtual machine, all of our virtual hard disks. So it's very similar to what we did last time, only this time we went in and actually built the core foundation of our environment. So we installed Hyper-V on the host machine, and we've been creating virtual machines. Active Directory was the hardest to get that going. The only issue we ran into was creating user accounts with a script. That was kind of difficult because it was not the code within the script was not cooperating. So I had to go into the script. Here's the script. Upon successful execution, I can go to this directory and review the log files. Usually whenever anything happens on a network, there's a log, so you can, if you need to go back to that for investigative purposes, you can, see the events that were recorded at that given time. Very handy. So let's look at the code real quick. There was some nasty looking code down here that I had to get rid of. It was when it would create the OU and then the demo accounts, but it wouldn't create the users, and yeah, so we got that fixed, which is good. So let's go to the groups. Let's go to information technology, members, member of, okay, so this group is a member of domain admins, which is typical for IT, so let's go to members again, and let's look at Ashley Berger. All right. AD Berger, very good. So cool. So I really went through and set this up good, so that's cool. So I'm going to change the password upon login, and I also created some OUs, or I'm sorry, some group policies. So now that that's finished, we can go ahead and apply those. Never mind. I created a couple of them so far, and I still have to go through and create additional. All right, so can't really practice yet because I don't have an environment. I was gonna log in as one of the users. Can't do that yet though, so that's gonna be for tomorrow. Okay, so we did a lot tonight, and I have a lot of videos, a lot of footage. I don't know if I'm gonna upload some of the first couple of videos where I actually was troubleshooting that script, but I gotta get some sleep. Let me give you a little bit of a background about the last few weeks of my life. It's been pretty rough. I got issues with my elbows because my desk is too big, so a new desk coming. Now we've been pretty. This profession has been pretty overwhelmed with the COVID crisis, the pandemic. Obviously, I think we all have at some point in the world in our lives been touched by this. It's been a blast. I mean, it's had its moments, but it's also had its mental fatigue. This is practical in the sense that it's kind of a relaxing thing to do, to show this to others who are currently going through this. Like if you're building an environment or have questions, or just looking for useful assistance, this is good practice. So the only thing we'll have to figure out is what to name the Azure AD tenants. So we'll probably see what's available. It's not going to be I'm not going to pay for it. It's going to be a trial subscription. Usually we can go with Contoso test lab environment something. On Microsoft.com. And so our users will have two emails. Their primary will be their username at Contoso.com, and the second one will be Contoso Test Enterprise Lab at on Microsoft.contoso.com. Yeah, so I gotta go to bed. Over and out. Good night.